again, Risa here with another episode of Ask Risa. If this is the first episode you're watching, I am a wedding planner based in Sacramento, California, and I put together these little weekly bite-sized videos of tips and tricks and things to think about to help you plan your wedding. I'm working through a series of sort of getting started tips. So there's a bunch of videos earlier in this series that sort of walk you through what you should do as soon as you get engaged to get started with the planning process. So you can check those out if you like. They are all part of a playlist. If you have any questions that you want me to answer in a future episode, go ahead and leave those down in the comments and I will be happy to address them. And so this week I'm talking about catering and sort of thinking through the different options that you have. Some of your catering decisions will be governed by the time of day that you're having your wedding. So if you're getting married in the morning, you may want to consider having a brunch reception, which is pretty popular for people who get married on Saturday morning or a Sunday morning. Brunch is a great way to continue the party and feed your guests and celebrate more with everyone. But if you're having a more traditional evening reception, like a 5 or a 6 p.m. reception, then you're going to be thinking about dinner. And it does need to be dinner, or a legitimate dinner. Some people will say that you can serve heavy hors d'oeuvres, but that's not appropriate for an evening wedding reception. If you're getting married early in the afternoon, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and then having an afternoon reception that is over by 6 or 7 p.m. and is not going into the night, then you can do heavy hors d'oeuvres. But if you're getting married at 5 or 6 p.m. and then having, dancing and going until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, you definitely need to serve your guests dinner. But you do have a lot of options within the dinner choice. One of the first decisions to make is whether you want to do a buffet or do a plated sit-down dinner. With a buffet, you still, can have tables and people will have a place to sit, and you can even do assigned seating. But there's no wait staff actually bringing their dinner directly to them already on a plate. They get to go up to the buffet and choose what they want. Usually with a buffet, you have multiple entree options available right there on the table, whereas with a plated dinner, that's when you put on the response card with your invitation, do they want chicken or fish? The typical choices. That way you can tell your caterer ahead of time, we have this many people who want the steak, and we have this many people who want the fish, and this many vegetarians, and that sort of thing, so the caterer knows what to prepare. Buffets give you a little bit more flexibility with food options, because you can have, like I said, multiple entree choices for everyone. People aren't forced to choose what they want 6 weeks ahead of time when they're filling out the RSVP card for your wedding. You can also be a little bit more flexible with portions with a buffet. If you tell your caterer you've got 150 people coming and 100 of them are having the steak, that's what your caterer is going to prepare. With a buffet, because they don't really know how many people are going to eat what, they tend to have more food available. Buffets do take up more space though, so that's another thing you have to think about. In the area where you're actually setting up your reception tables, you want to make sure you have room for all of your guest tables and also a long banquet table setup for the buffet. And if you have more than 100 guests, it's a good idea to have that buffet table positioned so that people can go down either side of it. So the chafing dishes are set up in the middle and they can be served from either side, which just speeds up the process. It gets your guests through the buffet faster, gets everybody their food sooner, and keeps the reception program moving along, which is what we want. Regardless of whether you're doing a buffet or a plated dinner for actual dinner, you also need to think about cocktail hour. If you're having any sort of hour between your ceremony and your reception, usually we call that cocktail hour, even if you're just serving beer and wine and not actually serving cocktails. You do need to have food for that. This is where your hors d'oeuvres come into play. Usually a crudité station or charcuterie plates and cheese and finger foods, past hors d'oeuvres. Sometimes they're stationary. You just need to give your guests something to eat while they are drinking alcohol, because it keeps everybody from getting drunk, which nobody wants. So when you're interviewing caterers or thinking about caterers, you should think about whether they are a full service wedding caterer, in which case they either usually provide or can help you navigate renting linens and, you know, tablecloths and napkins and forks and knives and plates and glasses. If you're at a venue where you have to bring all that stuff in and you have a full service caterer, they can usually help you manage that rental contract if they don't already provide those things themselves. Some full service caterers do provide those things. And if you're going with a restaurant, maybe a favorite restaurant you have, a lot of them do cater weddings, but they don't have quite the same level of service that a typical wedding caterer provides. So you may find yourself doing more work to pick up the slack there. And then another option to consider is food trucks, which are actually quite popular here in Sacramento. We have a lot of ranches, almond ranches and olive ranches and wineries and things like that. And it's very popular to have food trucks come and do dinner that way, which is kind of like a buffet, but a little bit different because they're of course preparing the food in the truck. So lots of things to think about. If you have any questions, obviously, about this or anything else, like I said, leave it in the comments. If you like this video and the previous videos and you want to get notified when I post new ones, you can subscribe, and there's a little bell next to the subscription icon that if you click on the bell, you'll get notifications when I post new videos, which is generally on Wednesday. I try to post these every Wednesday. And stay tuned for next week's video where I'm going to talk about photography. All right, bye for now.